Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Buggs. I'm in charge of adult programming for the Jacksonville Public Library System. Welcome to the main library this afternoon. We're very happy to have you. Today, we have really a wonderful cast, a wonderful program. If you have missed Stetson Kennedy, the legacy of slave narratives and civil rights narratives, you've missed something really great. We are so happy to have this particular cast back today for a program that was done specifically for the Cultural Fusion Year of the River celebration, which has been going on since January of this year and ends in December of this year. So we again welcome you to this performance of The River Speaks, literature inspired by the St. Johns River, and this is the Readers Theater cast.
This Readers Theater performance recognizes and highlights the history, stories, and folklore of the St. Johns River. The Readers Theater cast celebrate and give life to literature inspired by the experiences and marvels of the longest river in Florida, the St. Johns River. The cast explores writings such as
A River of Lakes, A Journey of Florida's St. Johns River by Bill Belden.
The Secret River by Marjorie Keenan Rollins.
Palmetto Leaves by Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Trouble on the St. Johns River by Jane R. Wood.
Bartram's Travels by William Bartram.
Young Minds Building Success Charities and the Jacksonville Public Library present River Speaks, literature inspired by the St. Johns River.
Who that?
My name is Colin Kane. Is Marguerite Jonan here?
That be me.
Well, the man down the river told me to see you. I wanted to tour the St. Johns River.
I'm on board, then all along the way I'll introduce you to a few people who will tell you some of the history and the people and the stories. And I'll show you some of the towns along the way, the animal life and the plant life. Oh, it's a lot to see on this river. Now look up ahead, right there now. See it right there? That's Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Let's go meet him.
Some of the guidebooks featuring the St. Johns River include St. Johns River Guidebook by Kevin M. McCarthy, published in 2008. Also, the St. Johns River, an illustrated history by Donald D. Spencer, which was also published in 2008. The Riverkeeper and the Sierra Club are two additional organizations focused on preserving the St. Johns River.
How do you do, Mr. McCarthy? This is Mr. Colin Kane.
Good to see you this fine day, Miss Margaret Jonah, and nice to meet you, Mr. Kane.
Nice to meet you, Mr. McCarthy. Can you tell me about the St. Johns River, please?
It'll be my pleasure. In the 1500s, Spanish seamen first mapped the St. Johns River and called the river River of Currents. In 1565, the Spanish renamed the river Rio de San Juan, or St. Johns River. It was named after a mission that was located near the river's mouth.
Now, the St. Johns River is one of the few major rivers in the U.S. that flows south to north. And it's the longest river in Florida. It stretches 310 miles.
Now, along the river, you can see all kinds of wildlife and species like alligators and frogs, otters and salamanders, snakes, birds, turtles, tortoises, Florida black bears, little blue and tricolored herons, snowy egrets, manatees, manta rays, snail bullhead fish, and of course, dolphins.
You can also see many towns and cities like Sanford and Georgetown and Palatka, DeLand, Orange Park, Jacksonville, and Mayport Naval Station.
In 1500 to 1763, the St. Johns River was settled by the Spanish. In 1763, Spain traded Florida to Great Britain for control of Havana, Cuba. which had been captured by the British during the 7 Years' War. The British maintained control of Florida from 1763 to 1783. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris ended the Revolutionary War and returned all of Florida to the Spanish control, but without specifying the boundaries. From 1783 to 1819, the Spanish once again controlled Florida, including the St. Johns River. Then, from 1819 to 1845, Florida was set up as a territory. And from 1845 to present day, Florida has been a state.
The St. Johns River has supported economic development through such areas as cattle trade, slave trade before emancipation, logging, fishing, steamboat trade, and others.
But unfortunately, human activities have contaminated the river. For example, stormwater runoff from cities, wastewater plants, and agricultural runoff have contributed to the pollution of the river. Dredging of the St. Johns River has sparked major debate for and against the issue.
Now, the issue of dredging the river will allow larger ships to come into port, allow increase of jobs, and improve economic conditions.
But some of the things you aren't saying is that the dredging would increase erosion of the banks of the river, the loss of real property, and damage to the rock layer that protects the Hawthorne Aquifer, which probably will be our future source of drinking water. And I didn't even mention inadequate funding to address that unanticipated environmental impacts. So we just don't know the full extent of or harm from the poor dredging. Now, Mr. Collin, up and to the left, there, look, can you see right there? That's Miss Marjorie Rawlins. Let's meet her.
The Secret River was written by Marjorie Keenan Rawlings and published in 1955 as fiction. This book has a Depression-era setting. The main character is a little girl named Calpurnia, and in the town she lives, there's just not enough. Not enough money, not enough food, not enough fish for her daddy to sell at the market. With her little dog Buggy Horse and a tip from old Mother Alberta, the wisest person in the forest, Calpurnia finds a secret river and uses the pink paper roses from her hair to catch enough beautiful catfish to feed the whole swampland, and some left over for Daddy to sell. But when she tries to find the river again the next day, Mother Alberta tells her,
"Child, sometimes a thing happens once and does not ever happen anymore. You caught catfish when catfish were needed. You will not find the river again."
In Marjorie Keenan Rawlings' Rivers, Lamar York says that Rawlings' settings are an essential part of her plot, and that she did not choose to write about the river by accident. She had taken time off and traveled the length of the St. Johns River in her life. The river was her friend. Later, she wrote about the boat trip and Pasadena Drift, a chapter of her book titled Cross Creek. Rawlings said that the trip on the St. Johns River cured her depression and allowed her to live in peace, as the secret river did for Calpurnia in her community.
And York writes that the river expresses Rawlings' belief that man must know or discover a relationship to a suitable physical setting in order to survive the harshness of this world that we're living in, just as she did when she was on the St. Johns River. There's a dark forest far away in Florida. The trees are so tall that the sky is like a blue veil over their leafy head. My name's Calpurnia. They call me Calpurnia because I was born to be a poet. My dog's name is Buggy Horse, of course. One morning I woke up and it was such a beautiful day. The sun was shining and the oranges on the trees were as bright as balls of gold. Lovely day, come with me. If I did not love my mother and my father, I'd run away. Because it's a running away kind of day.
Hard times have come to the forest.
But Daddy, what are hard times?
It means that everything is hard, especially for poor people.
Are we poor people? I don't feel poor.
Child, we are poor people. And I make an honest living selling fish to other poor people. But now there are no fish. Nobody can catch any fish. I have to close my fish market and things will go hard with all of us.
Calpurnia went outside and stood beside a tree and thought about the fish market. She said to herself,
Now if I was a fish, what would I like to buy? If I was a fish, I'd only buy something unusual and something pretty.
Calpurnia remembered some beautiful pink crepe paper left over from a party. So she made some large roses from the pink paper and tied them to her pigtails.
She set out with a buggy horse and a fishing pole to find Mother Bertha. She was the wisest person in the forest. Mother Bertha, I'm going fishing to keep my father from being poor. You're the wisest person in the forest. Will you tell me where I can catch some big fish so that hard times will be soft times?
Now, child, I haven't breathed this to a living soul, but I'll tell you. There are big fish in the secret room. Oh, my fish, catfish, perch, mudfish, and garfish, especially catfish.
Is the secret river far away?
Nobody knows.
Well, how can I find it then?
You will know the river when you see it. Just follow the news.
Follow my nose.
Calpurnia started out in the forest. The first thing she knew, a rabbit hopped by. She turned to look at him, which meant that her nose pointed to the right. She followed her nose. After a while, a blue jay flew into a live oak tree. She turned her nose to the left to look at him, so she followed her nose.
All of a sudden, she heard a sound like music. The forest had ended, and in front of her was a river she had never seen before. Calpurnia had found the secret river,
There's the secret river.
and the river was so beautiful.
Now, Calpurnia, she saw a little red boat and she stepped into it. Then she took one of the pink paper roses from her braids and tied it to the hook on the end of her fishing line.
A huge catfish tried to swallow the pink paper rose and was hauled out of the river on the end of Calpurnia's fishing line. After a while, she had as many catfish in the red boat as she could possibly carry home.
Mother Albertha was just turning off the light in her shop when she heard a knock on the door.
Who's that knocking so late?
It's Calpurnia with your fish.
Oh my goodness to the mayhaw bush. Oh my goodness to the swamp maple. Child, where did you catch all those catfish?
In the secret river when you told me to go.
Oh.
How many do you want?
Oh my goodness to the redwood tree. Just give me one of those nice fat catfish, child.
Sure. Good night, Mother Albertha.
Good night.
Then Calpurnia and Buggy Horse hurried home. The next day, her father went to the market to sell the catfish.
A man who had not had anything to eat for a long time bought the first catfish.
I'll pay for it as soon as I've eaten it and earned money for a day's work because I've been too weak from hunger to work.
A woman who had not had anything to eat for a long time bought the second catfish.
I'll pay for it as soon as I've eaten it. You see, I haven't earned any money for today's work, so as soon as I do, then I'll give you your money back.
All the people from the forest bought catfish and ate them and felt strong and went out into the world and found work to do. They earned money, and that night They all paid Calpurnia's father for the catfish and had money to spare.
Well, how about you, Mother Bertha?
Oh, I did just fine too. I even had 6 customers come into my shop.
So hard times in the forest turn to soft times.
And the secret river is on my mind.
I can go there anytime.
Everything Mother Alberta says is true.
The sky is gold and the river is blue.
River, river, St. John's River, I love you. Well, we'll meet Miss Jane Wood around the next curve of the river, okay?
Trouble on the St. John's River was written by Jane R. Wood and published in 2008 as fiction. In the story, the Johnson brothers, Joey and Bobby, along with their sister Katie, are up to their adventurous ways again. Joey and Bobby start their summer vacation by setting out for their favorite fishing pond, but end up leading a crusade to clean up the environment instead.
My book, it inspires young readers and to help them to become more aware of their environment and gives them ideas on how to preserve it.
Freedom! No more homework. Joey, let's go fishing.
Sure, Bobby, I'll get my pole.
You boys be back by 6 p.m.
Okay, Grandma.
Well, as they crossed the vacant lot that gave them access to the pond, they stopped dead in their tracks and were struck speechless.
Hey, what happened to the pond?
The pond was cloudy, greenish color and was covered with all this muck. And there was a dozen dead fish that floated on top with their mouths wide open.
This smell is going to make me throw up.
Gross. What happened?
Bobby and Joey went back home to tell someone what they saw.
Grandpa, you've got to do something. Our fishing pond is all yucky, and there's dead fish everywhere. We've got to call somebody to fix it. There's got to be someone who takes care of these things.
Yeah, what do you think, Grandpa? Well, boys, I'll tell you. Probably too many nutrients from the stormwater runoff, fertilizers and pollutants, and natural debris like dead leaves. They all cause algae to grow, and algae uses oxygen. When oxygen levels in the water are reduced, fish die. And when algae grows on the surface of the water, it keeps the sunlight from penetrating into the water, which means the plant and fish die. Tell you what I'll do. I'll call the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission to see what they can do.
So Joey, he began researching the internet for information on environmental issues regarding the St. John's River. And he saw a website that had manatees for adoption to save the manatee. Can we, Mom? Can we adopt a manatee? It's only $25.
Their mother finally said yes, if they earned the money themselves. The next morning was Sunday. The family ended up going to the Sea Turtle Center. Alicia, the guide, explained that some turtles were sick.
Why do they get sick?
Many things can make them sick, like red tide caused by algae bloom, marine debris, or garbage in the water. That's why it's so important we all do our part by picking up garbage and getting rid of discarded fishing lines in and out of the water.
The following week, Bobby and Joey took a boat tour of the St. John's River. The guide told them how the river was sick and that we all needed to do what was best so we could save the river. Even if it's saving a little water each day, turning off the water when brushing your teeth, and taking shorter showers. We've got to figure out a way to let people know about the river and what happens to the animals and the environment.
You know, I like the idea of doing a flyer and delivering them around the neighborhood to everyone.
Well, what are we going to call ourselves?
Hey, that's easy. We're the Greenies.
Yeah, if that's okay with everyone, then Greenies it is.
Greenies it is.
The God Tools was written by Gary Williams and published in 2006 as fiction. A sinister character that orchestrated an ordeal in St. Augustine and nightmare events in Green Cove Springs makes his presence known, and his return signals mankind's doom. On the cruise journey, they also had to deal with the fear of pirates invading the ship.
My name is Captain Stanley Zadahan. The name of my ship is the Turfield.
Now, I was a sailor on Captain Zadahan's ship. And as the ship neared the mouth of the St. Johns River, there was this approaching pirate ship, and it forced the Turfield to take refuge in the river. Now, fearing that we had been seen by that pirate ship, Captain Zadahan commanded the crew to take the Turfield past the Mayport fishing village and beyond what would become today what we call Jacksonville, Florida, which is 48 years later. And we moved it to a spot just south to what's today called the Buckman Bridge.
And just before nightfall, the Turfield lay anchored, the crew praying that the pirate ship had not pursued them. Now, Captain Zadahan was an experienced and cunning seafarer. He had ventured into the St. John's on several occasions and knew its shoals and sandbars as well as any captain. He was quite content at how far he'd been able to navigate the Turfield upriver before nightfall, which was very important. But as a precaution, he had the ship moored closer to the shore than normal, hoping to become invisible against the backdrop of the land, just in case another vessel should approach.
Those bloody pirates! If they knew the Turfield was only carrying building supplies and not treasure, they'd be on their way to their next dastardly conquest.
Good afternoon, Miss Jonah.
To you, Mr. Belleville, this is Mr. Colin Kane.
River of Lakes, A Journey on Florida's St. Johns River, was written by Bill Belleville and published in 2001 as nonfiction. The first highway through the once wild interior of Florida, the St. Johns may appear ordinary, but within its banks are some of the most fascinating natural phenomena and historic mysteries in the state. The river, no longer the commercial resource it once was, is now largely ignored by Florida residents and visitors alike.
Oh, I've been up and down the St. Johns River, kayaking, boating, hiking its riverbanks, diving its springs, and exploring its underwater caves. In my journey, I had the companionship and expertise of scientists, environmentalists, fishermen, cave divers, and folk historians.
His book, it weaves together the ecological, the cultural, the biological, the anthropological, and the archaeological aspects of the St. Johns River. It captures the essence of its remarkable history and its values and its natural value and wonder. Just moments after full dark, when the last shards of twilight slip away into the night, the jungle-like woods outside my tent, they abruptly turn on, as if someone had just turned on a light switch. There are these raspy screeches and deep-throated grunts, and the unsettling crack of branches being snapped in the underbrush. And from the river nearby, there's something very large that splashes and then exhales loudly. As I stretch out to get some rest, The hard-packed shell mound that's under me pushes through the thin tent fabric, and it outlines the knobby relief of thousands of freshwater snails gathered here by native campers centuries ago. No, I'm not in a tropical rainforest somewhere in Latin America, but instead, I'm on the banks of a river that parallels the eastern coast of Florida, from Vero Beach to Jacksonville. I'm on the St. Johns River.
The Miccosukes are a culturally entrenched tribe of Seminoles who still live on reservations at the edge of the glades.
They have a creation myth of how Florida's aquatics began. In it, their ancestors dropped from the sky like rain in Lake Okeechobee, and from there swam ashore. They shadowed the molecules of water that birthed all the great wet marsh and swamp overflow that was once central in South Florida.
Biologists Campbell and Burns, the boat captain Jim Messer, and Belleville leave the warm coffee shop in Jacksonville Landing and walk back out to their dark research vessel at the edge of the St. Johns River. On the opposite bank from their dock is the Riverwalk, a boardwalk linked to sidewalk cafes and bistros along with offices. It takes a fierce imagination to remember this is just a mere cortex of a deeper body of time.
You see, this used to be the Timucua village, called Wakapalaka. The place where the cows cross was once right here. After that, the Spanish called it San Nicolas. Then the British described this place as Cow Ford.
And the river, it used to be really, really low in this area. So it was a natural place for livestock to ford cows and to ferry supplies and people from one side of the river to the other. And along the river, another thing was the fire. Fire helps to periodically clear away the dense cover of one dominant species over another. And in that way, it just continuously allows the valuable wet grasses to reemerge instead of just climaxing into just shrubs and eventually just forests.
And fire is important for the biological diversity of the marsh. Besides stabilizing the grasses, fire releases nutrients from the ashes of what is burned and from the oxidization of the foliage.
It helps to shift the balance between all these species that are competing furiously between each other here for space and for life.
As we travel along the Wekiva corridor, the river is a natural attraction to bears and animals that are far stranger and less native.
Look at that animal high in the branches of that sweet gum tree. It's way too big and clever to be a squirrel.
It's a rhesus monkey. Back in the 1920s and 1930s, colonies of these sharp-witted primates were stocked at Silver Springs as backdrops to the Tarzan movies that were filmed there. Their descendants have since claimed the wild banks of the Silver River.
Now, Lake George marks the appearance of another larger and more endangered raptor, the southern bald eagle.
There's another bald eagle. It's hard to believe that bald eagles were almost extinct a half a century ago.
You know, bald eagles are usually seen soaring in the mountainous settings. But did you know that there are more bald eagles in swampy Florida than any other state except Alaska?
Really?
Really?
The most notable and most powerful mineral springs along the St. Johns River emerge from the Ocala National Forest. There is Juniper Springs to the south, Silver Glen in the middle, and Salt Springs to the north.
Okay, let's go cave diving in Silver Glen Springs. Strap on your scuba tanks and let's go.
Around us are entire fields of eelgrass. Schools of striped mullet swim in unison through these pastures, and they move like one very large and graceful aquatic animal.
We gently free fall down the center of a cave. I scrape my tanks on some
Careful.
limestone bridge.
Be careful. As we go deep into the darkness of the cave, I see this gigantic crab. It's nearly a foot wide from tip to tip, waving its claw at me in like a territorial menace.
I see fragments of a fossilized clam I collected.
And we see some lichen-like growth that the eels feed on, and freshwater shrimp as well.
At the bottom of the pit, the cave narrows and plunges deeper down into the aquifer, well beyond 160 feet. It's a territory humans have not seen yet.
This is in Florida. This is the St. Johns River. This is amazing. Technical divers are just now exploring the outside limits of places such as this. What they will find will help us to better understand such questions as how large these mysterious unseen reservoirs really are and what lives inside.
Palmetto Country by Stetson Kennedy was published in 1942. Palmetto Country is a wide-ranging social history of Florida and the Deep South up to the eve of World War II. Geographically, Palmetto Country ranges from Florida all the way up to North Carolina. Palmetto usually refers to the tall palm tree, also called cabbage palm, and swamp cabbage, which was eaten both raw and boiled. The book relates African American lore gathered by Kennedy, anthropologist Zora Neale Hurston, and folklorist Alan Lomax.
There was this one story about Old Pete. You never heard tell of Old Pete? I thought most everybody had heard of him. He worked off and on as a plantation hand, a dock laborer, railroad worker, sawmill hand, and when he died, he was a general rustabout at the Atlantic Coast Railroad Yard in Port Tampa.
Old Pete had a skull an inch thick, hard as iron. One time he was riding on the old stern wheel steamboat on the St. Johns River, going to Jacksonville to see a gal. And on the way, the crankshaft broke, and the captain of the boat told everybody it would take a whole day to get fixed. But old Pete, he was in a powerful hurry to get to Jacksonville because he wanted to see that gal. So he grabbed that crank and began turning that paddle wheel all by himself. He turned it so fast that the boat got to Jacksonville 3 hours ahead of time.
Another time, old Pete was working for an old farmer who lived about 10 miles from Fort Myers. And the farmer sent him to work in the town to fetch back a old horse he had gone. Pete set out to walk to Fort Myers carrying the saddle and the bridle for the horse. On the way back, he took a shortcut through a swamp and saw a great big old alligator. Old Pete wrestled that gator, saddle and bridle, jumped on his back, rolled and galloped to Fort Myers. They came back to Caloosahatchee River, and old Pete made the gator swim right on across with him, still on his back. When they got to Fort Myers, he sold the gator to the circus for $10, saddled the horse he come from, and rode him back to the farm.
Now see, he done things like that, just like that. In fact, once there was this locomotive that run off the tracks, and he picked it up all by himself and put it back down again. And then another time there was this ship that got grounded at the bar, and old Pete swam out and towed it off and into the dock all by himself. He used to use an anchor to pick his teeth with. I seen it with my own eyes. You look so pretty today, Miss Hare. Not saying you don't usually look pretty now.
Palmetto Leaves was written by Harriet Beecher Stowe and published in 1872 as nonfiction.
My book includes all kinds of stories about the river. It was an instant bestseller. It turned Florida into a popular wintering spot almost immediately. And it helped me to cope with my depression.
One of the most popular chapters in the book is picnicking up Julius.
This 29th day of February is a day made on purpose for a fishing hole. This is a good day for picnicking up Julius, as if it had been 4 years ahead. A bright sun, a blue sky, a fresh strong breeze upon water. These are nature's contributions. We sail the trim little white yachts, the Nelly and the Jessie. The 3 rowboats down, we all troop to the landing with our lunch baskets.
Now, the roots of the water lilies are the size of a man's arm. And then along the edges of the water lily patches are these favorite haunts for the fish. And they love to find shelter among the green leaves. So we anchored our yachts and divided into 3 parties onto the rowboats to begin the fishing. We saw this scaly alligator looking like animated form of the grotesque vegetable world that was around.
Elsie started yelling at our boat, and all this commotion till a fine blue rim spotted with black is landing. And now right in front of us looms a white skeleton of a tree. On the top of this, proudly above all the possibility of capture, was a fish hawk's or fish eagle's nest.
This bird has a hard look in his eyes, and doubtless he has a right to be upset. When we, who have neither eyes, beaks, nor claws adapted to the purpose, manage to smuggle away his dinner.
So we wander abroad and find great blue and white violets and swamp azaleas along the river's bank. And we set out the contents of our picnic baskets, and then we cooked the fish. And everyone agreed that never was fish better and sweeter. Fragments of the leftover fish were set out for that fish hawk.
Now, the western sun warns us that it's time to be spreading our sails homeward. The evening wind rises fresh and fair, and we sweep down the beautiful coast. So goes the 29th of February to St. John's.
Bartram's Travels was written by William Bartram and published in 1791 as nonfiction. This book describes William Bartram's travels in the American South and encounters with American Indians between 1773 and 1777. William Bartram was a Quaker and the son of naturalist John Bartram. In 1765, John Bartram was appointed botanist for the North American colonies by George III. On October 11th, William and his father began exploring the St. Johns River near St. Augustine, Florida.
Once back in London in 1772, Dr. John Fothergill of London commissioned William Bartram to explore the Florida territories, collecting seeds, creating maps, making drawings, and taking specimens of unfamiliar plants. Bartram began exploring East Florida in March 1774, especially the St. Johns River and the Alucha Savannah, peopled by the Seminole Indians.
One of William's descriptions of the St. Johns River was,
Oh,
blessed land where the gods have amassed into one heap all the flowering plants, the birds, the fish, and other wildlife.
Of 2 continents in order to turn the rushing streams, the silent lake shores,
And the all-abiding woodlands of the mysterious land.
into a true Garden of Eden. Well, we're coming up to Fort Picolata. It's near today's Tallahassee, Florida. Mr. William, now see right over there, that's Mr. William Bartram. And he and his father, John Bartram, they were English botanists who explored all up and down the St. Johns River. Mr. William, this is Mr. Carlin.
How do you do? Welcome to Fort Picolata. It's very ancient now. The fort has been built by the Spaniards. It is a square tower 30 feet high, invested with a high wall. It was built by the Spanish to guard the St. Johns River crossing. At the ferry landing for the road they used to carry goods, and from the mission St. Louis near today's Tallahassee.
And then in 1765 and 1767, Picolata was the place for important meetings between the leading Creek and Seminole Indians, and between their chiefs, and Governor James Grant and other British colonial officials. Soon after those meetings, there were a number of farms and plantations that were created in the vicinity of Fort Picolata.
The Europeans sought agreements and treaties with the Indians. Least there escalated the war in violence more than time.
The buildings are constructed with heavy stone, cemented with lime. The stone was cut out of quarries on St. Anastasia Island, opposite St. Augustine. It is of a pale reddish brick color, consisting of small fragments of seashells and fine sand. It is well adapted to the constructing of fortifications.
In November 1765, John and William Bartram stayed in the Picolata area for several days, exploring the vegetation and soils along the river.
Father, look at how the plant's divided into 3 stems.
William, my son, observe the rattlesnake before your feet.
The monster formed a great high spiral coil, not half its length from my feet. This serpent is about 6 feet in length and has thick as an ordinary man's leg. I dare take another step forward, or it would have put my life in its power.
William was frightened in spirit, but he instantly cut off a little sapling, which is a young tree, with a slender trunk, and soon killed the monstrous rattlesnake.
That encounter deterred John and William from proceeding on with their research for the rest of that day.
So I cut off the long tongue vine and fastened around the neck of the slain serpent. I dragged him after me, his scaly body sounding over the ground.
As we entered the camp with him in triumph, Indians and countrymen surrounded us in amazement. Governor Grant had us eat the creature for dinner that night.
I tasted of it, but could not swallow it. I, however, was sorry after killing the serpent, when coolly recollecting every circumstance. The serpent certainly had its power to kill me almost instantly, and I made no doubt that he could if he was conscious of it. But I promised myself that if I would never again be accessory to the death of a rattlesnake, which promise I have invariably kept to.
Now, this may be my own opinion, but you know how they say one thing represents something else? Sometimes I think, Mr. William, that he just saw the Indians just like he saw that serpent. But that's just my own mind.
Zephaniah Kingsley Jr. and the Atlantic World was published in 2013, and Anna Magdalene Jai Kingsley was published in 2003 and written by Daniel L. Schaefer. Zephaniah Kingsley was a maritime merchant, shipbuilder, plantation owner, slave trader, and slave owner who married an African princess, Anna Magdalene J. Kingsley. He prided himself on his treatment of slaves as equals and believing they deserved equal rights.
From 1803 to 1821, Kingsley established plantations along the St. Johns River between Drayton's Island, Laurel Grove, which is now Orange Park, and Fort George Island. In 1806, when she was 13 years old, Anna was captured and sent to Cuba, where she was purchased and married to Zephaniah Kingsley. They were married in a traditional African ceremony in a foreign land, which historians believe was Cuba. They had 4 children together.
The Kingsley Plantation, which was named Laurel Grove, was located off the St. Johns River in Clay County. A plantation that he owned and lived at for 25 years is preserved as Kingsley Plantation, part of the Timuquanum Ecological and Historic Preserve that is run by the United States National Park Service.
Civil and racial tensions began to rise along the St. Johns. On June 4, 1810, militiamen conducted raids along the river in search of weapons rumored to be hidden in slave cabins at several plantations. The mounted raiders confiscated guns which they brought back to militia headquarters at the Cowford on the St. Johns River, which today is called Jacksonville's Central Business District. When the militiamen rode into Laurel Grove, Zephaniah was not there. The militia was made by 2 enslaved men named Hadada and Peter, who were managers of the property. Despite their resistance, the militia took the guns from the plantation.
The 2 managers were eventually jailed in St. Augustine and found guilty. They were given 50 lashes each and were given 1 month of forced labor to make them understand and observe due submission and respect to the mistresses.
In 1812, myself and other landowners along the St. Johns River became involved in the Patriot War. The goal was to take over Florida from the Spanish. In July of 1812, I hosted a legislative council of my Laurel Grove plantation that established the goal of acquiring the East Florida Territory and giving it to the United States.
But then in 1813, my husband, Zephaniah, was kidnapped and held until he endorsed the Patriot Rebellion. It was an insurgency by Americans to annex Florida to the United States. After the Patriots took over Laurel Grove, I burned that plantation down to the ground. In 1814, Zephaniah purchased another plantation. Today they call it the Kingsley Plantation. It's on Fort George Island. It's near the mouth of the St. Johns River and is in the modern-day Duval County, Jacksonville. In 1815, news of the British raiding parties traveled across the border to Spanish East Florida and inspired the slaves living at settlements along the St. Mary's and St. Johns Rivers to seek freedom aboard the British vessels. Escaped slaves made their way along Northeast Florida's waterways until they arrived at the British headquarters. For 25 years, our unusual family lived on Fort George Island, where I managed a large and successful planting operation along the river.
Think about River Speaks literature inspired by the St. Johns River. This natural wonder and intrinsic beauty. This worthy and exciting tourist destination. This endangered treasure threatened by man. This opportunity and responsibility to save our river and its environs. Solon Robinson's poem, The Glories of the St. John, says, Wickalacca is a town in Putnam County.
What threw Wickalacca name this changing world has lost. I'll sing of thee, St. John's, and thy glories boast.
Thy current moves like time with long imprisoned souls who mark how much their life, like thine, has tides and shoals.
And though procrastination is of time the thief, but well we know to those thus bound, time brings relief.
And that is why, St. John's, I sing of thee, calling to friends up north.
Come down and see.
River speaks, literature inspired by the St. John's River. What do these writings say to you?
Introduce the cast real quick. We have our narrator, Mr. Earl Kitchen. Figure number 1, Ms. Ari Turner. Our new technical and now reader, Mr. William Jackson. And our executive director of Young Minds and writer, Ms. Tangela Ford.
Washington, he's also the co-director.
I just want to say that I hope you enjoy the river and the life of the river coming alive and the stories and the narratives. And this is what Readers Theater is about, bringing literature to life. So if you have any questions or comments from the audience, and we'd like to have it now.
Before we do take the questions, I want to also say thank you to Lisa, Bug,